Anthropogenic climate change is essentially the effect that humans have on the climate and ecosystem. This is in regard to rising global temperatures. When we look in specific areas like Siberia, climate change and rising temperatures become an increasingly more alarming issue. With the increased temperatures, Siberia's permafrost is melting more. As permafrost melts, it releases methane, which furthers global warming. When we think of global warming, we usually think of carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere that are released by fossil fuel emissions. However, when we look at gases like methane gas, they are 80 times more effective in the greenhouse effect than carbon dioxide. So if we think about the large amount of permafrost melting, we can also directly correlate it to the methane being released into the atmosphere, which creates a cycle of releasing and melting. In Siberia, as it snows, the snow piles up and creates a heat trapping effect, as the air pockets don't allow any cold air from above to reach the permafrost, just like a jacket. Because of this, the permafrost melt is further sped up. To solve this issue, scientists have thought of a solution that we will explain soon.
Permafrost melting is terrible and all, but why should you care? How does it affect you? The melting of permafrost may release bacteria that can be harmful to humans. We don't know what kind of dormant bacteria or viruses that could be released as permafrost melts, as there are still plenty of unknown factors. Also, Lake Baikal, located in Russia's wilderness, is the largest, oldest, and deepest lake in the world, containing 20% of the world's fresh water. The permafrost melting around this lake is releasing toxins that got into the permafrost due to industrial plants surrounding the lake. The conservation of Lake Baikal is crucial. It provides not only aesthetic value, but also a look at the vast history within its sediment composition and plants and animals. Siberia is a major exporter of oil and natural gas. Melting permafrost can damage pipelines and infrastructure, causing energy shortages and price spikes. California could see higher gas prices in the long run as a result. Look at this beautiful lake. Wonderful and ancient geological features like Lake Baikal are negatively impacted by rising temperatures and therefore the melting of permafrost. Don't you want to go and visit the many beautiful wonders of the world? Also, look at those poor animals who are affected by this as a result.
So, what solutions are viable? Scientists in Siberia have established a natural reserve with the hopes of recreating an environment that balances grasslands with the tundra. They aim to do this by reintroducing herbivores like bisons and deers back into the area. These herbivores act as natural grazers and stomp on the snow and stamp out the air pockets. This ensures that cold air will be able to reach the permafrost.
To maximize the benefits of the Pleistocene Park, we've decided to place a higher emphasis on something we all know and love: plants!
These plants will be able to support biodiversity and nutrient cycling in these areas. Currently, much of Siberia is dominated by shrubs that limit the growth of grasslands, and you want to make sure that we are constantly monitoring the biodiversity of various native plants in Siberia, like the Arctic willow, Siberian lupine, and polytrichum. These would be done with methods like quadrat sampling and the transect method. We would also make sure that there is no overgrazing and be able to observe the interactions in the area through camera traps. By ensuring there's a high biodiversity of plants that support a grasslandish ecosystem, we can ensure that there are stable food chains and resources for different species that have different specific niches. We also chose specific plant species like the Siberian lupine because it is a leguminous plant, meaning that it can support nutrient cycling for things like nitrogen. We could consider introducing foreign plants to these different areas, but we would have to consider their effects on the ecosystem and if they pose a threat as an invasive species with extensive monitoring. Currently, with many forest fires in Siberia, there is the opportunity to convert these burned areas into grasslands and thus expand the number of parks around Siberia to mitigate some of the effects of permafrost melting. Overall, these steps can serve as a natural and long-term method of addressing the increased melting of this permafrost in Siberia.
Now, how in the world can we support mitigating the effects of climate change, and more specifically, how do we slow down the melting permafrost?
Realistically, there is no perfect solution to magically stop climate change and the melting. Instead, we can make small changes to our daily lives and advocate for awareness of said climate change.
I think we should address the elephant in the room, which is our huge carbon footprint. With the US pulling out of the Paris Agreement, we face dramatically making climate change an even bigger problem than it already is. We have to not only make smaller changes like recycling more and composting and trying to save water.
Whoa, don't do that. You're wasting water. Turn off the faucet first.
But we also have to advocate for our government to make the right decisions.
We as citizens of the U.S. have a responsibility not only to our country, but to the entire world and its well-being. By making even the smallest of donations to groups like those that created Pleistocene Park, or climate change awareness groups in general, we can help spread the word and hopefully make a change.
We have to make meaningful change because the fate of our planet and all of the lives on it are on the line.